and in the Mormon way, I came home and got engaged at 21. We got engaged after 3 months of dating. Classic. And then we broke up. Okay, so Mormon girl leaves Mormonism, does ayahuasca, moves to Bali, does ayahuasca, goes to Burning Man. And it was just this cycle, like this cycle of the narcissistic abuse I'd experienced when I was young. I was experiencing that in my romantic relationships because what you don't heal will just keep coming. But as I've gotten older, I realized like I am what I always needed. Finally understood that I wasn't alone and that like other people had experienced the type of abuse that I'd experienced throughout my life. And I was like, I want to start something that will help people know that they're not alone. You're in a cult. And I'd be like, no. And they'd be like the Mormon cult. And I'd be like, no. No, I'm not in a cult. But then after it happened so many times, and I talked to so many people, we are so back. Welcome back to the Vulnerability is Cool podcast. This is your host, Jenna Jarvis. This is season 2. And I'm so happy you're here listening. I have something really exciting I'm going to share towards the end that I've been working on for like a year that I cannot wait to get out. I am in Bali. I've been on and off here for about 6 months. In total, I've been here almost a year, which is crazy. And I would have never thought. Like I've always seen Utah kind of as my home. Maybe thought I'd like end up in LA or something. But all the way in Bali has blown my expectations. And if you're new here, I want to give a little bit of a backstory. Where I'm from, who I am, why I'm doing this podcast, why I'm so passionate about mental health. To begin, I was born in Orem, Utah. And I was raised Mormon. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's a form of extreme Christianity. One of my first memories of my life is being sexually abused when I was 4, which I'm very open about. And I think that more people should be open about so that we can understand we're not alone in that. Like that experience has shaped so much of who I am and so much of my life. And then I grew up and experienced narcissistic abuse. I didn't have a great relationship with my family. I ended up leaving home around like 14 years old. And I was kind of like a foster kid, but like not in the system. Like I just lived with random different families. And I was always looking for my place. I never really found that because that place was always just inside me. And now I have found that, but I didn't find that growing up. But as I've gotten older, I realized like I am what I always needed. So I did that. And then I was Mormon through all of this. I went to high school in Utah. I ended up, when I was like 19, I ended up going on a Mormon mission to Argentina, where I was there for almost 2 years, knocking doors every day, teaching people about Jesus. And then I came home, and in the Mormon way, I came home and got engaged at like 21 to someone I had known for like, I knew him all throughout high school, but we never really talked. And we got engaged after like 3 months of dating. Classic. And then we broke up, which I had a feeling it wasn't right, but I was always telling myself like, oh, the devil doesn't want eternal families. The devil doesn't want me to get married. And so of course I'm having bad feelings. Like I would convince myself out of the bad feelings, even though he was a great guy. We just really were not meant to be together, especially after dating for 3 months. Like, and a huge motivation when you're Mormon to get married is because you can have sex till you're married. So that was huge. And then I had never really been in any therapy for anything I'd experienced throughout my life. And when we broke off that engagement, it really, really sent me. And I could get into that on another episode. I think I have in past episodes. But it brought up like everything that I had been suppressing my entire life. I didn't really know I was suppressing it because I'd never been to therapy. I didn't know anything really about mental health. And everything came up. I started having anxiety attacks. I started really questioning things. Like I remember having a little bit of like suicidal ideation my entire life just from different experiences that I'd had, like just thinking maybe the world would be better without me, which is so sad. But this time was like major. We had gotten a house together. I was living in the house by myself. And I just felt so alone. I was actually working for his dad as well, which like seeing his dad every day, like it was just really triggering all the time. And it really sent me so deep. I have a family friend that like took me when I was younger, and they invited me to come live with them in Arizona after this all happened. So I moved to Arizona, and then I went to this doctor when I was there, and I was really depressed. And they were like, oh, we'll give you stem cells to help you. And so I was very vulnerable, and they had me take out a $14,000 loan to pay for stem cells, which I had no money and I couldn't work because I was so depressed. Like I would have anxiety attacks all the time. Like horrible. Definitely got taken advantage of. And they were Mormon. So like I just thought like these doctors had the best intentions for me, but obviously they didn't. And like what I needed was therapy and time to heal, not stem cells to fix my depression. And so then I'm like $14,000 in debt. Got some stem cells that didn't help, but I was living with an incredible family. Like they're so dear to my heart, and they just being around a family, they're making like home cooked meals at night and like playing family games, like very healing environment for me to be in. So I stayed in Arizona for about a year, and then I kind of got back on my feet. I went back to Utah after that, and this whole time still very, very active Mormon, like really believed in everything. And I started dating someone else. He was like my best friend. Like we had so much fun together. And I just was not that great to him in the beginning because I just had not healed through anything. I also have had OCD my entire life, but I did not know up until this point. So I was very critical of him. Like with relationship OCD, you can fixate really hard on someone else and their character and like things that really have nothing to do with them, but like your brain just tells you that it does. And so yeah, I just wasn't that great to him. And then I feel like we dated for like a couple years. I can't even remember. I feel like it was like 2 years off and on. Anyways, just karma hit me in the ass. Like I feel like I was horrible to him in the beginning. Like I would never tell anyone he was my boyfriend. Like I was very critical of him. And then I decided to go to therapy. I did EMDR therapy, like very, very, very deep therapy for my trauma and things that I've experienced. And then it kind of flipped. Like then our relationship was just rocky, like, and it taught me so much. And I'm sure he feels the same, like just about who I am and who I want to be. And I'm so grateful for it. And anyways, that ended. And I was really, really struggling with it. Like I would just ruminate all the time on like, oh my God, this is my person. I know this is my person and I need to be with him. But like also it didn't feel right and it never really felt right. But like I just wanted it to be, and then he didn't want me anymore. So I was just deep in it as well. Like again, even though I'd been in therapy and I feel like I was healing a lot, like I just felt like I needed a big change. And so I had been on a cruise earlier that year, a European cruise randomly. And I had met this Italian family and they were like, hey, come visit us in Italy, da da da. And so at this time I was like feeling like shit. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Italy, which is so random. And I just messaged them and I was like, hey, can I come? And I was planning on going like on a 1 month backpacking trip. And I go out to Italy. And also at this time, like if you're familiar with Mormonism, like I was very, very, very Mormon, like very Mormon, and never doubted anything my entire life until I was like 26 years old. I never doubted anything. Like I remember the only thing that I had a hard time with was like the plan of salvation. If you're familiar with that, it's just like the grand plan of what happens when we die. I always kind of struggled a little bit with that, but that was the only doubt I had. But that never meant like the church isn't true. But when I was leaving to go to Europe, I just had one backpack and I was trying to decide if I was going to bring my garments, which is like the Mormon magic underwear. And I was like, you know, I have such like limited space in my suitcase. Do I want to bring these? And I just felt like, you know what? No, I don't want to bring them. I don't want to wear this magic underwear. I want to wear shorts. I want to wear tank tops. And at that time it covered your entire shoulders. They went down to your knees. Like I was just like, I don't want to wear this. And so also right before I left, my family was going on a family reunion and we all were going to the Mormon temple together, which if you're going to the Mormon temple, you need a special like little recommend, like little card to go. And I had been obeying every single commandment, doing everything besides paying my tithing, which is you pay 10% of your income to the church for your entire life. And the reason that I wasn't paying is because I'd started Vulnerability School and I was hosting all these retreats and events and I was doing it for free. Like I was paying for them and I wasn't making any money. And so I just felt like, why am I donating 10% of my money when I'm already giving all of my money into my own like foundation essentially? And so I had an interview to get this recommend to go into the Mormon temple. And he asked me, are you paying your tithing, like your 10% to the church? And I was like, you know, like I haven't been paying my tithing because of this. Like I just feel very strongly that I've prayed to God and I feel like what I'm doing is good and I don't need to pay my 10% to the church. And he was like, no, like you owe a debt to the Lord. He read me the scripture about people being burned in the last days because they didn't obey the commandments, which I know you could say like, oh my God, that was just such a horrible church leader. Like you shouldn't have left the church for that. But like, that was such a powerful part of my journey. And I'm so grateful that he was like that, because first off, I've had OCD my entire life and I didn't know at this point, but I had done everything so fucking perfectly. Like I was so by the book, so terrified of God, so always just thinking I was one wrong move away from completely losing myself constantly and like losing like my light. And so for him to say that, like, even though I had never drank, I'd never had sex, I was 26 years old, and like I had just been so on the straight and narrow my entire life. And then he was going to tell me that I couldn't go to the temple with my family because I hadn't been paying 10% of my income to the church for 2 months, even though I paid my entire life. I was like so mad. So I left that interview just like sobbing. I called my dad and I was just like, I'm so mad. Like, this isn't unfair. This is so unfair. My dad was like, that's so unfair. I'm sorry. I ended up going to the family reunion. Like I couldn't go in the temple. Like it was just awkward. And then I'm like, have these thoughts, of course, of like my family probably thinks that I'm doing all these bad things and having sex and yeah. So anyways, like right after that family reunion, I left for Europe by myself. And I stayed with this Italian family and they were so cool. And I never really like traveled like that except for my mission in Argentina and then like the European cruise, but you're on a boat the whole time. So, and that was like very eye-opening and that was really beautiful. And I'm so grateful they let me stay with them. And then after I was in Italy I think I was there for like 3 weeks with them, 2 to 3 weeks. Then I was like, okay, I need to like travel. So I decided to go to Nice, France. And I would stay in all these hostels and people would ask me like where I was from and I would be like Utah. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm a Mormon. And then like time after time after time, people would just be like, oh, like you're in a cult. And I'd be like, no. And they'd be like the Mormon cult. And I'd be like, no, no, I'm not in a cult. But then after it happened so many times and I talked to so many people, like backtrack real quick, I never really had friends growing up that weren't Mormon. Like everyone I knew in my life was Mormon. And then when you travel, like you go to California, you hang out with other Mormons. You go to Arizona, you hang out with other Mormons. Like I really never had friends that weren't Mormon. Like my grandpas, I have gay grandpas and they weren't Mormon. And then I have an uncle that's not Mormon. And so I had like a little bit of exposure, but like everyone in my life was Mormon. Like even when I went on vacation, I was a person that would like drive 2 hours to go to church and make sure I went to all 3 hours of church or 2 hours of church. And I was very extreme. So also being in these hostels and also being Mormon, like I was taught my entire life, like I am highly favored of the Lord. Like people that are not Mormon are not highly favored of the Lord. Like I have such an advantage over them in a way. And like they're lost. Like I need to help them. So anyone I would meet that wasn't Mormon, I'd kind of always just be like, But except for celebrities, like celebrities were like, oh, it's okay if they aren't Mormon, you know, or even celebrities that left Mormonism. It was like totally fine. Cause it's like, oh, I don't know. Like we just respect them, which is actually so funny. So like time after time, and I'm just like starting to think like, oh, is this a cult? And then I just like start doubting so much. And also backtrack here. I had really bad depression right before I was leaving, like going through all this stuff with my ex, and I just felt very lost. And I had a friend that had done psilocybin mushrooms, and he had told me like, if you ever want to do them, let me know. Like they've changed my life. They've really helped me like process so much trauma and all this stuff. And I was just like, oh yeah, no. Like I don't do mushrooms. No way. I've never touched substance in my life and I never will. And then he like sent me a podcast from Huberman about mushrooms. And I was just like, I was very fascinated by it, but I was never like, I'm going to do this. But I ended up trying it before I left. And then it totally changed my life. Like it was so powerful, so powerful. I felt the most joy I've ever felt in my entire life on mushrooms. And I was just like, this is magical. I was really scared to do it because you can't do drugs, obviously, if you're Mormon. I'd even asked my church leader, like, is it okay if I do this? I have really bad depression and like, I don't want to take medication. And he was like, no, like you can't take any mind altering substance, which is crazy because medicine alters your mind, you know, like antidepressants. Yeah, and side note with that, mushrooms are so powerful because when I was on antidepressants, it really numbed me. Whereas mushrooms, it doesn't numb you. Like the emotions are able to flow through you in a healthy way so you can process them in a healthy way. But I'm also not against medicine. It's just definitely not for me. I think it's a tool. It should not be used as like something for the rest of your life. That's just my opinion. But So anyways, I'm there and I'm just like learning so much about the world, and I'm meeting all these people that have never been Mormon. I met my first like Jewish person, and I learned about him and his culture, and like I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've always viewed people that weren't Mormon as like this horrible thing. Like they're just so lost. They don't have the truth. And I started realizing like, you know what? I feel like these people love me more unconditionally than anyone has loved me in my life, and I don't even know them. And they did not grow up Mormon. And that felt very confusing for me. Like I genuinely felt like I was experiencing unconditional love for the first time in my life from random strangers. And it was really beautiful. And slowly I just started being like, you know what? Like I don't want to be Mormon anymore. And it felt so easy because I didn't meet a single Mormon when I was there. Like it was honestly such a beautiful transition. And then I met like this German guy and I started dating him and lost my virginity at like 26, almost 27. Drank for the first time, but just like a tiny bit. I don't like drinking, never have. And then I smoked weed for the first time, and like it was just like a crazy thing because it was like really beautiful to like finally experience those things. And so then after my 4 months in Europe, I came home. I went on the Girls Camp podcast and with Haley Rawl, and I shared about my story of leaving Mormonism, which was really heavy and really hard for me to do. I had a panic attack the day that episode came out. I hadn't really told any of my family except my dad that I was leaving the church or that I had left. Yeah, that was a beautiful experience for me as well. And because of that podcast episode, I have a friend named Noah that listened to that episode. And he was like, I talked a little bit about how I thought, oh yeah, I kind of have OCD a little bit or something. And he was like, reached out to me after and he's like, Jenna, like you have like full blown OCD. You have pretty intense OCD. Like, I don't know if you know, but I just like love to let you know. So like hopefully that's helpful for you. And I was just like, oh my God. Like I have horrible OCD and I've had it my entire life and I had no idea. I used to touch things 4 times with my pinky when I was little. I've always overanalyzed everything. Like everything I say, every interaction that I have, especially growing up, like experiencing narcissistic abuse, you're already questioning who you are. And on top of that, you are ruminating constantly. Like not only you think like you do everything wrong, but on top of that, it's like someone is constantly telling you that you do everything wrong. And so then your mind goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And that's led to a lot of perfectionism in my life and feeling very misunderstood. Yeah, so he told me that. I also was in a relationship that was not good for me, and I felt it from the very beginning. Like you always know. And I just had an off feeling. Like I would always ask my friends, like, what do you think about him? What do you think about him? And everyone would be like, oh, he's like fine. Like, but I felt a horrible feeling. And he was also ex-Mormon. And yeah, and then just from not listening to that, like that relationship went on, and like I started really, really losing myself. I was also in a lot of debt, and I had a friend that paid off all my debt and then let me work for him to like pay off all my debt. So I was just working so much at that time and in such a horrible mental place, but also so grateful that I could pay off my debt interest free. Like it was a huge blessing and like truly such a pivotal time in my life. And also we were long distance, and so I was alone a lot, but that left me to ruminate so much with my thoughts. I don't want to play the victim at all because I stayed in that relationship. There were things that just really hurt me. He would leave out of town and wouldn't message me the whole time he was gone. And I at that time too was very like did not have boundaries and just like let things go. So I would never message him, but I'd be so curious. And then I'd see like, his friend posting him at the club. And I would just be like so hurt. And I suppressed so much because if I would open up, like it would just immediately get shut down. And then I was being like dramatic, and yeah, just a really bad relationship. Got so bad. Like I remember we were going to California for Thanksgiving from Arizona. We were in Arizona, we were going to California. And on our way home from California from Thanksgiving, I remember taking off my seatbelt in the car and just praying like, God, please take me. Like, I don't want to live anymore. This mental load is too heavy. Leaving him feels way worse than just dying. Like, I would rather just die and like restart somewhere, you know, like I'm ready. Like, just take me. I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. And I was really struggling, and I really felt so unheard, so unseen. And it was just this cycle of the narcissistic abuse I'd experienced when I was young. I was experiencing that in my romantic relationships because what you don't heal will just keep coming. It taught me so much. And during that time, I had also done ayahuasca for my first time, and that helped me so much with my OCD and like these ruminating thoughts. Because all throughout my life, I had really bad anxiety, and it was OCD, but I didn't know what OCD was. And yeah, so I just experienced severe, like very, very intense pain, suicidal ideation from like 8 years old, and just thinking I shouldn't be here. And towards the end of that trip, I like tried to unalive myself, and I'd never really actually tried to do that in my entire life. I had ruminating thoughts and these things, but it was like I was experiencing so much pain in my body, so much pain that I just wanted to feel physical pain. And like I remember, and I'm like, maybe this is TMI, like get these thoughts, but I'm like, I would way rather share this and have someone else feel like and know that they are not alone. Like I remember I was sitting in the shower, and we were having an argument, and I was just like, it wasn't stopping. And I remember just talking in circles, and I was just feeling so lost. I just started like, he left, and I was just sobbing, and I just felt so much pain. I didn't know what to do. Like, and I totally understand why people cut themselves. I've never done that, but like in that moment I was like, I get it. And I just started banging my head against the shower, which sounds so crazy until you're in it. And then, just like did everything I could to just unalive myself in that moment. And luckily that didn't happen. But that was a beautiful, pivotal moment in my life, because a part of me died that day. And now I view suicide in such a different way. The whole self does not need to die when we feel these feelings, but a part of us is begging to die. Our body is begging us to let it go. A part of me definitely died that day. It took some time, but like we ended up breaking up on my birthday. And then I went to really intense ketamine therapy. I did 8 sessions. And then after those 8 sessions, like that really changed my life. I had such beautiful experiences in that. Yeah, ketamine therapy is beautiful, and I'll get into it in another episode because I've had a lot of experiences since that as well. And I just had like great support as well around me. And then I ended up going to a teacher training for yoga in Bali at the House of Om called Yoga Amritham. And I went there, and that was really hard. Like I remember just like being there, you do yoga for like 8 hours a day, or like learn about yoga, and you wake up at 5 a.m. and you're just with all these girls, and like it's a space that really allows things to come up. I remember just feeling so many things, like just sobbing, like so proud of myself that I got out of it. But like sometimes we'd still even talk. Like I just knew that's not what I want, but it was like this part of me that was still dying. Like a huge part of me did die, but it was like parts of me were still dying. So then I was there, and then I stayed in Bali for a while, and I just loved Bali. Like it was like a warm hug from the universe. I am obsessed with Bali. Like I totally just belong here, and I don't know if it's forever, but I fucking love Bali, and I will always come back. Like it's just magical. Hindu culture, they believe in karma here. No one's gonna rob you or like hurt you. Like it's very safe, and it's so spiritual, and I love it so much. So anyways, I'm in Bali, and then my grandpa, I just stayed here. I stayed here for like 4 months or 5, I don't even know. And then my grandpa was passing away from cancer, which was really, really hard for me. Like if you know me, you will know I am obsessed with my gay grandpas. I even have a little tattoo if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, that was really hard for me. So I ended up coming home for his funeral. I was really mad at myself that I didn't come home before he died, but I just never knew when he was going to die. It was like, he was so healthy. He lived till he was 97 years old. So it was like, he was never going to die. Like my whole entire childhood, I thought he was going to die because he was so old, but like he just kept going, and never again. Like if I ever hear of a loved one that's about to pass, like I will be there. Such a great learning experience for me. Like I wish I could have been there when he was passing away. But anyways, I ended up going home, and then I ended up doing ayahuasca again. And that was really profound, very powerful for me, like for sure life-changing. It taught me I had been in this cage of this narcissistic abuse, or honestly just this male-dominated world. I've just suppressed myself so much I can fit into their needs and be who they need me to be instead of who I want to be, into my wild feminine. I really tapped into that in that trip. Big fan of ayahuasca. I'm ready to do it again. And then I went to Burning Man. Okay, so Mormon girl leaves Mormonism, does ayahuasca, moves to Bali, does ayahuasca, goes to Burning Man, Went to Burning Man. That was a life-changing experience as well. Like, so beautiful. And it just made me feel like anything is possible. Like, you're just like running around like a little kid wearing whatever you want to wear. And like, it is such a wholesome thing. Like, people think of Burning Man and they're just like, oh my God, it's so crazy, orgies. I'm like, I don't know anyone that did an orgy at Burning Man. Like, you know, and like people that are walking around naked are oftentimes you really don't like people you probably don't want to see naked anyways. So it's not like, oh, like it's just beautiful. And also, because people are walking around naked, you don't sexualize people. It's just people are people, and we're all just little kids, and you just get to run around on all these art structures, and you get to have these little gizmos and gadgets that you pass out to people, and you give people gifts. Like, you just meet all of these amazing people. And I met so many successful people there, expansive people, and just really connected people, like connected to themselves, connected to their partners. I saw the most beautiful relationships there, like soulmate level relationships that totally changed my perspective on love and what I want in a partner. Life-changing. It genuinely felt like Neverland. I just met some of my best friends. I just love it. So I went to Burning Man, and then I was home for a while, and then I just had this really strong feeling that I should go back to Bali. So that December, I booked a flight to Bali and I came back. I have been here for about 6 months. No, 7 months? No, something like that. I went to Australia for the first time, which was really amazing, and I loved it so much. I spent a month and a half there. And then I went to South Africa for Africa Burn with my friends, and I have this amazing friend group. My friend named Carlos. He's like the most wholesome guy ever, and we just had the most wholesome experience, and it was so beautiful, and I met the most incredible people. And now I'm here in Bali again, and I don't know how long I'll be here. I'm thinking I'm going to go home for a little bit of summer, like home to Utah. I just miss it, and I love my people. I really just feel that I am in the most expansive state of my life so far. I have learned so much about myself. I'm so much more in my power. I know who I am at such a deeper level, and I've just had like a more regulated nervous system than I ever have in my life. And there's definitely been ups and downs. Like, I'm still learning every day, but I am just so grateful to be who I am. And I'm so grateful for every single thing that has happened in my life. And I just look back and I am like, every single thing is perfect. Every single detail is so perfect. I'm thinking, like, I didn't really get into when I started Vulnerability is Cool, why I started this podcast, but because of the trauma I had experienced when I was little, I always felt very alone. And so once I went to therapy, I finally understood that I wasn't alone, and that like other people had experienced the type of abuse that I'd experienced throughout my life. And I was like, I want to start something that will help people know that they're not alone. And so I started my company, I hosted retreats, and I started these workshops, all these little things. And now, my biggest thing that I've been working on is I've dove so deep into OCD, and I've learned through so much about it through my ketamine therapy, through my ayahuasca, through intense OCD therapy, just studying it like crazy. I have, over the past year, I've been making this OCD PDF that is kind of just like my entire journey, and then an OCD course that takes you through the entire thing as well, which I'm so excited to share. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Probably planning to go to Burning Man again. Like, it's so whimsical and so magical. My deepest desire in my life is just to help people understand that the magic is in them, and that any life that you desire, you are so possible of achieving and living that life, that truly everything is perfect. And one of my big themes lately has been slow is fast. If you're constantly rushing through everything you do, like, what is the point? You're going to rush through everything that you ever do. So I've just been trying to be very slow and intentional and enjoy where I'm at in my life, and enjoy who I am becoming, and enjoy the ups, enjoy the downs. I've also gotten really into ecstatic dance. I'm like in love with ecstatic dance. If you have not done ecstatic dance, I highly recommend. It has changed my life and given me so much confidence. Essentially, ecstatic dance is like a sober party, kind of. You go in sober, like no alcohol, and you just dance, and it's like a dancing meditation. Like, you can't talk to anyone while you do it. You're supposed to just fully be in yourself. And the weirder you are, honestly, the better it is. And when you first get to ecstatic dance, you like look around and you're just like, these people are so weird. And then you realize that everything is a mirror, and that you're actually just projecting, and that's actually how you feel about yourself. And then the more you lean into that, the more you open up, and the weirder you get, and the more expressive you get, and the more expressive you can get into ecstatic dance, the more expressive you can be in your life, because you're like, you know what, why do I give a fuck what people think? There is literally no point. And the people that are dancing crazy are having way more fun than the people that are judging. that's kind of the gist of all of this. I have so many different topics that I want to dive into, from being highly sensitive to OCD to manifestation. Like, I have truly manifested my life. I've really healed my relationship with money, which is a huge one, especially when I grew up just very much in scarcity. And I'm going to share a lot about that. I also am really into like manifesting your magic partner and also becoming your magic partner, which I've spent so much energy doing this last year. I'm just really grateful and I'm so excited to share, and I love you. Thank you so much for being here. And a question I ask in all of my episodes is, if you could have everyone in the world understand one thing, what would it be? I think today would be that authenticity is a superpower. And the more authentic that you are, the more magical your life will be. I am the weirdest, most expressive version I have ever been, and I am attracting way cool people into my life, way cool experiences, money. My life is so expansive right now, and I truly believe the more authentic you are, the more you're able to find your people, the more you're able to find peace within yourself, because you're not suppressing anything. And yeah, I love you so much. Thank you for listening. In the name of vulnerability, amen.